Yeah, well, I mean, let's use that veteran status against a couple of non-vets now. Uh, you got into we'll title these like vet response to James Lindsay. So you got into a an exchange with our boy James, and I don't know if I'll be able to follow this entire thread back. Oh yes, okay, so yes, we can follow it all the way back. This is a classic James Lindsay. Mashed potato brain. Uh, says, I'm not quite sure how to outline in a Twitter thread, but I'm going to try. It's a theological point on the evolution of Marxian religion from Marxism to neo-Marxism, of which the woke is a post-modern adaptation guy. So blah blah blah, right? And you responded with the crying Jordan Peterson. What does MRW mean?
My reaction one.
My reaction, I haven't seen that one. My reaction when I read a really high level idea like this, he says, you would, great stuff. And you respond, you would try to cancel us troops the day after 9/11, James. Completely unacceptable. Thank us for our service right fucking now. And James says, you were right with your crying image, cry babies, LOL. He said, I was part of the 174th Marine Rangers. Do you even know how much discipline and fortitude that requires? We don't talk shit like this from worms like you. I've only ever cried twice in my life. Once the day those towers fell, and second when my stepdad Roger told me is proud of me. Stay on topic, he said. And he says this, which is one of my favorite tweets of Twitter, which has come from this mathematician who turns into a culture warrior named James Lindsay. Denounce communism and thereby uphold your oath to the Constitution, then, Marine. Now, publicly. Now, my question was like, is that against the Constitution? Like, what?
So he's kind of correct.
Correct. Okay. Yeah,
he's kind of right. Yeah. So here's like I guess anti-military hack. Like just tell a recruiter openly you're a communist, a proud communist, and they honestly should leave you alone. It is one of the questions of that it's like on the they got a questionnaire of like have you committed any crimes, that's not whatever the hell. And yeah, one of them's like, are you communist, or a member of the Communist Party? But yeah, so he's kind of right on that. This I do have to admit, so Left Flank is we're a co-op. There's a few of us. This was another member, Dick, who is he he's very good at just like trolling the idiots online. But yeah, that's like, it's kind of funny that I don't even know if he actually knows that, but it is kind of true. But also too, it's like
he's a free speech guy. Why would he know that?
Right. But the quote tweets to that, actually, because we said, I was like, oh man, let me just reminisce on this one. The quote tweets to the like we're in the 174th Ranger, like all that is just like a bunch of bullshit that like Dick makes up, that it like makes people believe we're not really veterans, but hearing all the like that's not actually real, when it's like obviously like we know, but
well, as somebody who was a Marine and learn how to be in combat, I would be curious if you could do a quick analysis of James Lindsay's swordsmanship real quick for us.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what would you think if you saw this in the field? How much backup are you calling? Are you calling in airstrikes? Like, what's the
like, that is the least dangerous thing that I've ever seen.
Maybe for you, but not for him.
Yeah, that's something that I do find interesting. Like, obviously, like, I don't put any emphasis on like masculinity, but like the people who are like the most like it's like loudest proponents for it, like they don't quite fit the mold, so it's always interesting.
And it's like, I don't know, just because you do some bullshit like stunt about CRT or whatever the hell, like you don't get to like command soldiers. Like, I don't know what.
But it's that like the whole thing too is that like, and we like a lot of times will absolutely like play on that of like, no, if you're gonna troop worship, no, thank us for your service. Yeah, we're commies now. And like we've gotten people to like comply, like, and it's like
That's
this
good.
weird thing of like they will even bow down to their own like demands of patriotism.
Yeah.
Even though like, oh, you commies are ruining the country, but I thank you for your service. It's like this weird fucking thing.
That's lovely. I also want to bring up, so Steven Crowder, it's not enough for him that communist is officially banned, but he says any woke active duty, and he capitalizes woke. Any woke active duty soldiers who have no sense of loyalty to the country should not be in the military. Now, I mean, generally, I'm curious about your reaction to that tweet, but also like I've heard that military is having trouble recruiting. So like, and partially it's because the right has like uh said they're part of like a like ultra woke like trans affirming army or something like that, like, right, like, so they're
Yeah.
having trouble recruiting from, so I'm just curious like your reaction on like the recruiting stuff, because when we're not like, we hear like recruiting problems is that's not necessarily a dire thing, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious what your reaction is.
No, and this is like one of those things where you really got to engage the materialism to take the good, but like yeah, understand like where lies are just being told, because like the thing is too is like they're kind of the reactionary right is burning the candle at both ends. On one end, when you're talking about of like this overemphasis on the woke military, I mean, Dick and I actually read this. Like, there's a guy who like wrote a book about it, and it's like kind of ties it and like very heavily relies on Jordan Peterson. But yeah, so they are depressing, people wanting to join the military, like who are on the right, saying, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of woke libs in there. But then also you got things like January 6th, where like literally the kind of showed of like how the emphasis on the military, the fact that the 3%ers and the oath keepers and all these people they recruit, like that is turning really like some of like just like kind of like middle ground people saying like, oh, if I join the military, then like I might end up in kind of these avenues. So yeah, and like if you're on the left and you're kind of seeing this, just kind of like just back away and kind of like let them do the de-recruiting work for us.
Yeah.
But also, really like it's not true. That's the thing is too is that and something that like I guess I struggle with is the question of like what would some type of militarized or like force look like, what should we do with like the mass amounts of equipment that like I think could be used, especially like to save people from climate crisis events and stuff like that, which is going to be increasingly happening over, there's a use, for like able-bodied young people to like go out and risk their lives, there's really not a use for like doing it with you for the United States or they like the stuff that's going on in the border,
Right.
where Texas is engaged like the National Guard, the Texas like military, which like I can't remember what it's called, but like Texas has their own separate little like National Guard thing.
Well, yeah.
That's
No, I mean it's worth re-upping because it's really crazy. Like Operation Lone Star, he's scrambled the Texas National Guard to go out there and basically do a parallel border operation to the federal border policy. And because you're pulled up by the state government, not the federal government, you get paid less. If you are killed in action, which people have died, you don't get that immediate check or like it taken care of. You have to file workers' comp thing with like the government, which takes forever, and you only get like a portion of your salary in the first place. And in response to that, because of the Biden administration, I don't know if y'all have covered this on Left Flank, but there's a union attempt of
Yep.
unionization of the Texas National Guard, because the Biden administration, it is illegal for the military to form a union. But the Biden administration basically said that they're not going to prosecute it, which has sort of opened up an interesting space. They won't prosecute it for state level National Guard deployments. So it's an interesting moment.
Yeah, and that's something that's like I think with they also trying to like very much this is from the Biden administration define it into this pay and benefits of the other like comparable state level employees and stuff like that, which bare minimum, which like I hope that like some of these but yeah, no, I've paid pretty close attention about some of that unionization work, because a lot of it was just saying, what happens if everything wrong like happens, and like those guys could have been like potentially arrested, like there could have been like you could like I can't think of the word, treason, all this type of stuff like that, if like they want to go as hard as they could in the wrong direction. Because if you're in uniform, you start saying no and you don't know your legal rights, the United States government can really come down on you, and like CC, Chelsea Manning, reality winner, Daniel Hale.
Right. I mean, I really like what you said about there being a use for like deployable force of able-bodied people with all the problems we're going to have. And like, there's also a willingness, like, I mean, like to like actually go do something positive with what you're capable of doing. I mean, that's why I almost joined when I was in high school. Not I wasn't that close, but why I like was toying around with it, because it's like neither of my parents went to college. So like, the promise, I wanted to get out of North Dakota. My dad asked me, like, because he was tired of getting those phone calls when I was like 26. He's like, why did you tell him you were even interested? I'm like, because I wanted to get out. And I wanted like to get out of North Dakota, frankly.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, and you see all this propaganda about actually you're going there and you're doing this great stuff, like putting generators in, and that anybody who is sees that and follows that, I think, like you said, understanding people and understand the systems is the problem and not the people, because I mean I think it's very obvious how we need to channel that better, I guess is what I'm saying. Youthful humanities capability, we need to channel that a lot better than we're doing.
And like look at firefighters, right? Like there's probably a lot of firefighters that are just absolute like assholes, but like no one's got a problem with firefighters. There's people who, and like that's these, there are people who are willing to say, I'll put myself in danger just to help. And it works out, and like we're gonna need some more of that. And if there was a comment that I saw, I was like asking about like the climate change and like like the military being like the largest polluter and stuff like that. Really at the end of the day, it was like most of the stuff needs to get torn down, like scrapped, like. And the thing is too is like every day you've got training and stuff like that. They're just burning fuel, prepping for war. So like that's like probably like a lot of it. Like some of the, like most of the ships don't run on nuclear energy. There's just a huge tank of diesel, powering this fucking ship. There's no sails on this motherfucker. This is all Detroit diesel engine power, baby. And it's just like dumping all the trash. Like we don't need that. Like park the boat strategically. You're gonna have to do some drills to make sure people are prepped. But at the end of the day, like you can get rid of a whole lot of it, but like having a vehicle that can traverse some dangerous area, get some people out, save some other people, that's gonna be necessary more and more. And hopefully that would be like the only thing salvageable out of the military industrial complex.
Yeah. One detail about the waste of fossil fuels during military training. There's a story in Stephen Kinzer. It's in, I think, Overthrow. And he's talking about, I think it was Kermit Roosevelt. And they were like doing Iran coup stuff. And he it was really fucking hot, so he turned on to get air conditioning. He went in the plane. They turned the airplane on, and he just like the airplane engines were just burning fuel. And he's like, "My taxes pay." He was like some rich, it was from the Roosevelt family. He's like, "My taxes pay for this. Keep it on." So yeah, that's how they think of fossil fuels. Marcus, thank you so much, man. Twitch.tv/Left Flank Vets. Colin, Revolutionary Tracks, which David and I were on a week or two ago. And also on This is Revolution podcast. Really great talking to you, Marcus.
Yeah, and thank you. And if I can say, once again, get on Truth Social. It's a good time. It's hot like a pistol. But also, the Left Reckoning Romper was a good idea in the chat.
That sounds like one. Let's do that.
We'll see that. We might do.
So much.
Yep. See you, Marcus.
Thanks,
we'll take the romper under advisement.